Hello friends, so now we are formally starting section 149. Till now you have understood all the definitions, and once again be very clear that whatever you have done till now as far as the definitions are concerned, it is something very important for understanding the entire law. Now coming to section 149, quite a long section. Brief of that you have already seen before. So now starting with subsection 1, in this video we'll cover up subsection 1, 2 and 3. Subsection 2 is no more relevant. So effectively we are talking about subsection 1 and subsection 3. Please pick up the section, the material. Okay, material means the act which I have given you, and open section 149, and if it is not ready, please pause the video, open and then continue. Okay, now section 149 subsection 1 says every company shall have a board of directors consisting of individuals as directors. Now understand every word clearly. This is every company. Even in case of one person company also, that one person who is a director, he will also be referred as board. But other than one person company, whether private company or a public company, this is shall have. So this is a direction. This is not a matter of choice. Every company shall have a board of directors. Why it shall? Or you can say must, or you can say should. That is more or less, these are identical words for the purpose of this section. So every company without any exception shall have a board of directors, right? So what is required is every company, no exception to that, shall have board of directors, right? When this is not there, when the board should be there? This is a very important question to understand. When I'll simply say since incorporation, there is no time limit. Within 7 days or within 15 days or within 30 days after the date of incorporation, the board can be constituted. No, the board should be there since incorporation. How long it will be there? Till a dissolution. Now, some of you may argue that when the winding up commences, there is no board. You are mistaken. All the powers of the board become exercisable by the liquidator. Board is there but absolutely ineffective. How long board will be there? Till a dissolution. Now, if you read the subsections 1 again, you will get the meaning. It's every company shall have a board of directors. It is not giving any time. So, up to what time company is in existence? Company is in existence since incorporation till dissolution. So, as long as company is in existence, there should be a board of directors. So, that's why I have said this. When the board should be there, the board should be in existence since incorporation till dissolution. Even during the course of winding up, there is a board, but absolutely ineffective. The moment the winding up commences, all the powers of the board become exercisable by the liquidator. That is a different story, but the board is there. Okay, so this says every company shall have a board of directors consisting of individuals. Now, when it says consisting of individuals, this is not putting any condition, any eligibility criteria. Who can be there in the board of directors? So, consisting of individuals as the directors. What it says? Consisting of individuals as directors. So this is a case of individuals, and any individual cannot be the member of board unless he has been formally appointed as a director in accordance with the provisions of the act. And that is what we are going to study now. That is what the chapter is, right? So then the chapter itself is appointment and qualification of director. So here you have to understand very clearly that in the board there can be only an individual and appointed as a director. So as a director means formally appointed in accordance with the provisions of the act. So if somebody is not appointed, he may be attending any number of board meetings, but he will not be considered as a director. He may be attending in the capacity of an invitee or some other capacity, but he cannot be treated as a director unless he has been appointed. So that is the meaning of the word as a director, right? So here you can say individual, but this is subject to two sections. Number one, he is not disqualified under section 164, and number two, after appointment, any disqualification under section 167 has not been attracted. So when we say individual appointed, now appointment is subject to section 164. There are other provisions also regarding the maximum number of directorships, right? So these are basic. That is after that. Okay. So if a person is disqualified under section 164, he cannot be appointed. And after appointment of the disqualification has been incurred, office gets vacated. So about whom we are talking about, consisting of individual as a director. So who is the director as of now? Somebody who was a director in the past cannot be treated as a director today. Somebody who will become a director tomorrow cannot be treated as a director today. So who is a director today? All of them taken together, that will be referred as a board of directors. So this you can say this is an association or group of individuals who have been appointed on the board in the capacity of directors. So all of them taken together are referred as the board of directors. Right. So in nutshell, I can say what is the meaning of board of directors? So board of directors, this is group of individuals. How many individuals that we have to further study in this? It's a group of individuals. Exception is one person company. Okay. So group of individuals who have been appointed as directors. So appointed as directors within the meaning of the provisions of the Act. Designation as a director doesn't make a sense for the purpose of law. But appointed as a director, that is everything which is relevant. So if a person who is not appointed as a director but otherwise controlling the board indirectly, he will come under the category of officer. Read the definition of the term officer. So he is not a director. Earlier we used to talk about the concept of deemed director, but now the concept of deemed director is no more there. He has been included in the definition of officer. So any person in accordance with whose instructions the board or some of the directors are accustomed to act, he is also treated as an officer. So when it comes to officer in default, even that person will also be taken into the trap. Okay, so here coming back to board of directors means what? So it's a group of individuals who have been appointed as the director. Right. Now, what is the specialty about the group? So the purpose of or requirement of having the board of directors, you can put a question why. Why board is needed? Answer for that is under section 178 or rather 179. If you understand this only, then you will understand why this section is saying every company shall have the board of directors. Because the answer lies under section 179. Section 179 says all the powers of company now these given by the act or articles or memorandum. This is all. Right. It is not saying statutory powers of the company, or it is not saying the powers given by the memorandum. All the powers of the company are exercisable by board of directors. This is under section 179. All the powers of company are exercisable by the board of directors except where specific provisions have been made in the act or articles for decision being taken by members only. So section 179 in a summarized version I have written here. This is all the powers of the company. So whether given by the act or memorandum or article or otherwise are exercisable. By whom? By the board. Now see, the beauty of this says no power has been given to any director in the individual capacity. The powers have been given to the group, the association of that individuals who have been appointed as the director. So no one individual can take the company for a ride. Powers are given, but to whom? All of them who have been appointed as the directors on the company's board as per the provisions of the act. But except where? So in the Companies Act itself, we have number of provisions where the power is exercisable by the members only. The simplest example is appointment of regular directors. Board cannot appoint any individual as a regular director. Only members can appoint. Board cannot remove any individual from the position of the director. Members have a right to remove any individual as a director. Other things already aware, you are aware of: declaration of dividend, appointment of auditor, and number of decisions regarding amendment of memorandum, article, etc., etc. Number of things are there where board can propose for the members approval, but ultimately the decision for the change has to be taken by the members only. So except where specific provisions are there either in the act or in the articles or otherwise, subject to those things, all of the powers of the company are exercisable by the board of directors. So this is the reason. Answer is question. Understand the question very well. Why the board is required? Right. Theoretically, you can certainly read that company is an artificial person. It can act only through the individual. That is okay. Theoretically, it is good to write. But why? Answer is here. Right. Another thing is that when somebody is appointed as a director on the company's board, he will have certain statutory duties, certain contractual duties, and certain fiduciary duties. Statutory, whatever is given in the act, they have to do that. Contractual, so when they are appointed as a director, certainly they may have some kind of contract with the company for the giving the services. And fiduciary, it means they have been appointed as a trustee by the members, so they have to take very good care of the assets of the company, business of the company, grow the business, make more profits, distribute more dividend, and if it is a non-profit company, generate the profits and expand the business. Okay, so that depends upon the what is the purpose. But ultimately, when they are appointed as a director, they have certain statutory obligations, certain contractual obligations, certain fiduciary obligations. There is a specific section, but we don't have to talk about the section. We have to understand that what is the position of director. So tomorrow, if you are appointed as a director, understand three words. Number one is statutory obligation. Number two, contractual obligation. Number three, fiduciary obligation. And forget obligations. That comes into the business ethics. If you're appointed for a specific purpose, you have to ensure that the purpose is fulfilled. Right. So why somebody will appoint you as a director? Because the person who is appointing you, he believes that you can certainly take very good care of the things, assets as well as business, both. And in that, your personal interest will not be disturbing the process. Right. So there shall not be any clash of interest that you have to keep in mind. So same thing applies here also. So I'm not going to the details of that. What is the requirement? What is the business ethics for the director? So understand here. So why the company is required to have the board? Because of section 179. Section 179, what is it saying? That except where the specific provisions are made in the act or the articles, all the powers of company are exercisable by the board. Now how the board exercises powers? Right. Something more in detail. How the powers are exercised by the board? This is not relevant in this section, but it is important for you to understand. Exercise of powers by board of directors. How the board exercises the powers? This is only one. This is decisions. The board makes decisions, and then the responsibility for discharging the function is given to somebody. It is delegation, it is not the transfer. So ultimate responsibility remains with the board only. So decisions can be taken by the board of directors in two ways. Number one, in the board meeting, and number two, passing of resolution by circulation. That is another manner of taking the decisions. And in certain cases, the board is authorized to constitute the committees. So when the committees are constituted, that is just an extension of the board. Committee is not the board. Committee is not the board. Right. So say for example, some finance committee has been constituted by the board, and that committee takes a decision for all the borrowings or all the lendings on behalf of the board. No, that cannot be done. Committee is not the board. Committee can take a decision within the power delegated to them. So for that, the responsibility will be of the board of directors. So committee and board, these are never equal. Okay, so all the decisions of the board, or rather the decisions are taken by the board of directors either in the board meeting or by passing a resolution by circulation. And there are certain subjects which are specifically defined to be transacted only in the board meeting. Which are those subjects we'll refer later on. Right. So if a subject is already reserved under the act, the decision for this will be taken in the board meeting, then that cannot be passed by circulation. Is it okay? So that I'm not going to the details, just I'm writing something here. Subject matter of the proposed resolution should not be reserved for board meeting. Say for example, political contribution. This is one example. So political contribution decision has to be taken in the board meeting only, subject to other requirements. Okay, so decisions are necessarily, so this is one case. So you cannot take a decision for making any political contribution by passing a resolution by circulation. That is compulsory here. So here I have written only that subject matter of the proposed resolution. Why proposed? Because after the decision has been taken, it becomes a resolution. Before that, it is just called a proposal, or it is referred as a motion. It is not a resolution. Resolution is after the decision has been taken. Before that, it is a proposal or it is a motion. Commonly, it is referred as a draft resolution. No, it is not a draft resolution. That is just a proposal or a motion. So, subject matter of the proposed resolution should not be reserved for the board meeting. For example, political contribution. So that's how the decisions are taken by the board. So why the board is required? Because as per section 179, all the powers of the company are vested in the board of directors. And what is board of directors? That is group of individuals. Who are those individuals who have been appointed on the board as the directors? And who can be appointed? Who are not disqualified under section 164 and subject to their fulfilling all the requirements for being a director. And after the appointment, they have not ceased to be director under section 167. So when all that is there, then the board will be there. Now coming further, in this section itself, it further says shall have. So now we have the number of directors in this. How many number of directors are required? Number of directors. We have minimum number of directors and we have maximum number of directors. Minimum I need not explain, you understand that in case of a one person company, number of directors required is 1. In case of private company, minimum number of directors required is 2. In case of public company, minimum number of directors required is 3. That is already known to you. Maximum number is already given herein. Maximum number is already given herein. And it is further given by way of the proviso. First proviso says, I'll write P1. First proviso. This says number of directors can be increased. Number of directors can be increased after passing a special resolution. Now, special resolution means necessarily this is a resolution in the general meeting. And this word is very, very important. after. You cannot do something like that today. You make the appointment and it is subject to further approval of members in the general meeting, or you pass the resolution later on. No, this is very, very specifically saying after passing a special resolution. So number of directors can be increased. Now here are, you can say, exceptions where the maximum number and special resolution requirement is no more applicable. So there are two cases where it is not applicable. Number one, government companies, and number two, section 8 companies. So these are two categories of companies which can have number of directors more than 15 even without passing a special resolution. Right, but minimum number they have to fulfill, maximum number this is given. And here itself we have the second proviso, that is P2. This talks about woman director. So this I'll explain a little later. Right now understand this. So we said number of directors minimum is this and maximum is this. If a director is appointed exceeding 15 without passing a resolution, the next appointment itself is void. The person is not a director. He cannot act as a director, right? And later on you will read that also, that if somebody whose appointment itself is void and if he is acting as a director, then what happens? That is a very different situation, whether the company is aware of or company is not aware of. So number of ifs and buts are there. So that's why I'll not touch that topic right now, but understand this in very simple way. This is the maximum number and proviso is given. Proviso says pass a special resolution, then appoint more directors. If the need be, do that. And if the more directors are appointed without passing a special resolution, the appointment itself is void. What happens if number of directors go below that? There are provisions that if all directors resign or for some reason all the no directors there, then what happens? But when number fall below, then what happens? If the number of directors fall below statutory minimum, that is not a board of directors, it cannot act as a board, then the remaining directors will have only one authority, that they can call a general meeting to appoint more directors. Because the power to appoint new directors are either given to the board or to the general meeting. No directors are having the right to appoint more directors. Right. So here, below this, I need to write something, but there is slightly more, so I'll have to clear this. If number of directors fall below statutory minimum, if number of directors fall below statutory minimum, the remaining directors the remaining director or directors cannot act as a board. Now this is very powerful line, where the powers are given to the board and the number of directors are below minimum, so they cannot act as a board. Then they are directors, that is correct, but not the board. So they cannot take any decision in the capacity of board. So in this situation, remaining director or directors can call general meeting only to appoint new director or directors. The remaining directors cannot act in the capacity of board because to be considered as the board, the minimum number of directors must be satisfied. Now, if we say remaining directors can call general meeting only, this is an important word. In that general meeting, no business will be done other than appointing new directors. If you do any other business, it means that has already been approved by the board before coming to general meeting and there is no board. As far as this point is concerned, there are some drafting weaknesses in the law. That will come sometime later. Okay. So where it says the remaining directors can take action for increasing the number of directors. Can take action for increasing does not mean that they can appoint directors, because in the entire act the power to appoint the directors is given either to the general meeting or to the board of directors. There is only one situation when no directors are remaining, that promoters can appoint more directors or the government can appoint more directors. Remaining directors can never appoint new directors. Right. So that is a matter of interpretation, and interpretation is all the provisions taken into account. You cannot read one line and make a decision on that. Okay, so that there has been a lot of debate on that. Can the remaining directors appoint directors? And even in exam also the question has been asked and the answer given by the institutes are wrong. They say no, the remaining directors can appoint directors. Certainly not. Challenge that answer. That is the wrong answer. So what the remaining directors can do? Remaining directors can only call a general meeting, and in that general meeting also only one subject, that is appointing the more directors, no other subject matter. Why? Because before anything is brought to the general meeting, it should pass through the board, and when there is no board, where is the question of having more subjects in that general meeting? That's why. So when the number of directors fall below statutory minimum, the remaining directors can only have one business, that is calling the general meeting and appointing more directors. Okay, now this is section 149 subsection 1 up to proviso 2, or rather you can say subsection 2. Now specifically we'll talk about woman director. So that is under proviso 2. So I'll just writing P2 because that is in subsection 1, proviso number 2, and this is talking about woman director. Woman director compulsory appointment. As per subsection 1, proviso number 2, appointment of woman director is compulsory. But where? Let's see. Public company, private company. Private company, certainly this is not required. In case of public company, again divided in two parts, listed and unlisted. Listed company always required. Unlisted, again I will divide in two parts for clear understanding. This is having paid up capital of rupees 100 crores or more, or turnover of rupees 300 crores or more, and here we have less. Less means paid up capital is also less than 100 crores and turnover is also less than 300 crores. There also it is not required. In this, either of the requirement is satisfied, then this is needed. How long this is needed? As long as this requirement is satisfied, there should be a woman director on the company's board of directors, right? So how many? One, at least one. You can have more, that is a matter of choice. When the day this requirement is satisfied, are you going to see that? That is based on latest audited financial statements. So you are not talking about 1st April or 31st March. If you have audited financial statement, so as long as these requirements are satisfied, company must have the woman director on the company's board. Right. So quite possible that by the time the financial year 31st March 2021 ends, right. So on that day, the turnover of company has gone below 300 crore, capital is already less than 300 crore, but woman director will continue till the new financial statements are audited. Right. So everything is as per latest audited financial statements. So here you can put a note. This is as per latest audited financial statements. Right. So the day it goes below, that is not the time for end of the term of office of the woman director. Right. So woman director, now this director, woman director, may be regular director, maybe some other director, maybe additional director, maybe alternate director, but the woman director is required. Maybe retiring, maybe non-retiring, any capacity, but woman director is to be there. Now this person or this lady, for some reason if the office gets vacated, then what? Now all these details are given in the rule number 3 of the company's qualification and appointment of directors rules 2014. All this is in the rule number 3. If there is an intermittent vacancy, so first of all, the first question is how many? I said minimum 1. When the day this requirement is satisfied, day means what? As per the latest audited balance sheet. From that day till up to what time? As long as this requirement is satisfied, but again as per the latest audited balance sheet, there has to be woman director. In the meantime, if there is an intermittent vacancy, then what do? Then the board shall fill up the vacancy. Any intermittent vacancy in the office of woman director shall be filled up by the board of directors latest by the next board meeting or within 3 months from the date of vacancy, whichever comes later. Right. So that I'll write. Okay. I'll give you some more headings. How many at least one. More you can have, that is not a problem. How long? As long as requirement is applicable. So requirement is either it is a listed public company or it is an unlisted public company with the turnover of 300 crore or paid up capital of 100 crores or more. So as long as the requirement is satisfied and that is as per latest audited balance sheet, as per latest audited balance sheet. Okay. Then comes intermittent vacancy. Vacancy arising for any reason before the end of the term, because this person can be a retiring director also, and before retirement if the office is vacated, then what? After retirement the person is not willing to be reappointed, then what? Everything, we are not using the word casual vacancy, we are using the word intermittent vacancy. So maybe a regular retirement, but no new person is appointed in that capacity. So that's why the word is intermittent. We are not using the word casual vacancy. Intermittent vacancy, first requirement is shall be filled up by board of directors. So again a directive is there. There is a direction given that this shall be filled up by the board of directors. And that is within 3 months since intermittent vacancy. Let me write the full word, otherwise this becomes IV. Intermittent vacancy arise or next board meeting whichever is later. Right? This is one reason where lots of confusion arises. That's why I've written in capital. So vacancy cannot continue. The board cannot take an excuse that we had appointed the person, but later on the no more person is available. Now there is another question. If really good efforts are made and company fails to fulfill the requirement, then what? It is certainly a non-compliance, but this is a compoundable offense. What is compounding? This is not the subject matter of this topic. We'll discuss that sometime later on. So this is section 149 subsection 1. And I hope you have received it very well. And before proceeding further, read whatever notes you have taken, put the video on pause and also read subsection 1. And if you have any doubt, you can always send me a message on WhatsApp, and it is my responsibility to revert to you. My number is this is WhatsApp number. And if you have any doubt on this lecture, you have a right to drop me a message, and it is my duty to respond to you. Okay, now coming further, as far as subsection 2 is concerned, it is no more relevant for you because that was valid for a very limited period of time since Act became applicable. I'm just reading out. This says, every company existing on or before the date of commencement of this Act shall within 1 year from the commencement comply with the requirement of the provisions of subsection 1. So that was talking about from 1st April 2014 up to 31st March 2015. That period is already over more than 5 years before. So it is no more relevant for you. Forget that. So you can put a cross mark in subsection 2. Now coming to subsection 3, again something important. This says every company shall have at least one director who stays in India for a total period of not less than 182 days during the financial year, and provided that in case of the newly incorporated company, the requirement under this subsection shall apply proportionately at the end of the financial year in which it is incorporated. So subsection 3, I believe you have taken the note of this number. Okay. So any doubt, any question, certainly revert back to me, or rather drop me a message. And even if you want to subscribe for the full course, this is the number on which you have to drop a message, and I will revert to you. So here, subsection 3, this is talking about resident director. Now the term used is not that resident director. This is our own uses. It simply says a person who stays in India for at least 182 days during the financial year. And if we apply the concept of Income Tax Act, if we apply the concept of FEMA, certainly we are talking about a person who is a resident. But this is not referred herein. It is not used, this word has not been used in subsection 3. What it says, every company, again same, whether government company, public company, private company, whatever it may be, every public company shall have, again an obligation, one director. So at least one who stays in India for a total period of not less than 182 days during the financial year. So this is a requirement of the current financial year. This is not the requirement of the preceding calendar year or the financial year. This is the requirement of the current financial year. So what is said is, in two parts. New company and existing company. New company means incorporated during current financial year. Incorporated during current financial year. So in the case of existing company, here we say every company shall have at least one director. Now here is something interesting. Now this director may be a regular director, may be additional director, may be alternate director, whatsoever be the position. So if by chance if the promoters of the company are situated abroad or they're residing abroad, they don't have a place of stay in India, they don't come back to India on frequency, on regular frequency, they can certainly appoint alternate director only for fulfilling the requirement of this provision. And that alternate director is also director for every purpose of the act, and he will fulfill the needs. Okay, so every company shall have at least one. More always welcome. Minimum is this. Who stays? Now the word is used is stay. We're not saying who is living in India, who is residing in India. That is not the word. Stay. So stay includes residence. He may not have a residence. He might be staying in the hotel or he may be staying in some resort or whatever he is doing. That is okay. And what is he doing during that period? That is also not given. Quite possible a non-resident director comes to India for some medical treatment. He is in the hospital for more than 6 months. So the requirement of staying in India is satisfied. Okay, we are not saying he is attending office for more than 182 days. He is staying in India. Who stays in India for at least 182 days, and this is during the financial year. The financial year means we are talking about the current financial year. Right. So the requirement must be satisfied on the completion date, that is as of 31st March 2021. There should be at least one director who has satisfied this requirement, otherwise it is a violation. But what happens if company itself has been incorporated in the month of December 2020? In that case, this provision comes into picture. This is the proviso 2 subsection 3. This says the requirement is applicable here also, but proportionately reduced. So this requirement is here also, but duration is reduced proportionately. Right. So I said company incorporated in the month of December. Let's take first of December 2020 company has been incorporated, and up to 31st March how many days? So effectively this 182 days is out of 12 months. Right. So out of 4 months how many days will be there? Naturally that is 182 days divided by 3. So that much minimum stay of a director is required in India. Right. And I have already suggested that this person we are not talking, as far as we are saying, that at least one director. So he may be additional, he may be alternate, he may be some other, in any capacity he can be a director, but at least one director. So quite possible that all the promoters are non-resident, but only for fulfilling the requirement of this proviso they appoint somebody as an alternate director. Okay, so that's how this requirement can be satisfied. So this is subsection 1, subsection 2 and subsection 3. Okay, I believe you have already taken the note. Hmm? So this way, the entire Companies Act is there, for which I'm launching the videos. Whatever course you are going through, whether it is CA or CS or CW, or you are existing professional, or whatever the capacity you are in, if you want to really understand company law, particularly Companies Act 2013, full course is available, right? And that will be accessible to you for the whole year. Once again, I'll repeat my number. You can drop message on this, and it is my responsibility to revert to you. And another office number is also there. On this also you can connect for any further information. Anyway, this is one part. Now in the next video, that is going to be little longer, that will be starting from subsection 4 to subsection 13, quite long discussion, and that is about independent director, and that topic has to be studied along with schedule number 4, so that is bound to be a longer video. So when we meet in the next video, be prepared to be with me for at least 1 hour. That is going to be a little longer video. So see you in the next video. Thank you very much.